On a complete other topic that has nothing to do with engineering, Errol, many people struggle with how to overcome difficulties. As a clinical psychologist, I'm very curious to have your thoughts about it.
What difficulties?
Like a depression or a breakup in a relationship, something like that. What's your thoughts on how people can overcome that?
Well, I think everyone is going to experience that in their life. So it's, I suppose you could say, common. And it doesn't matter who you are,
Yes.
you are going to experience depression. And what was the other thing you mentioned?
A breakup in relationships.
Breakup in a relationship. Of course, depression can come from all kinds of things. I mean, if you were, for example, a young lady and you were voted in as Miss USA, you have a year in which you can be Miss USA and you are treated like royalty. And, you know, it's just absolutely wonderful for a year, but then suddenly on a certain day they have the new competition and another Miss USA gets chosen, and suddenly you find yourself sitting the following day as the previous Miss USA, totally ignored. And this brings on a depression. I've seen that, and the need to try and get back to the sort of attention you had before. Some succeed at it, and many don't. So it's common. And then of course there are all kinds of depression. So it's difficult to pinpoint, go over all of them. But what I would say is that a lot of the problems coming to do with depression and breakup of a relationship are to do with the fact that you are living in the past or you are living in the future. And the present is totally ignored. Your whole life, day and night, is about the past and about what the future holds. Now, this is going to get worse and worse and will make you feel very anxious and very depressed. So the solution to that is very simple. And I'm not the first person to say this, but I think if you ever read any of the Eastern philosophers' sayings and things that they say to you, if you want to be happy, live in the present and do not live in the past and do not live in the future. Now, of course, you have to live a little bit in the future in terms of planning and so on. And you have to remember a few things like people's birthdays from the past. But living in the present, the way you live in the present is you work on something that is requires your full attention. Now that might be that you, for example, as a man, found that your door lock is not working properly on your car, so you focus on opening the door and you focus on trying to find out why your lock is not working. Now during that entire period of time that you're doing that, you will of necessity be living in the present. And you will notice that your mood will improve tremendously. In fact, once you have found your problem and you've sorted it out in the present, you will leave it and you will remain in the present for quite a while until the negative thoughts start coming back to you. And there are other ways that people find of living in the present. One of the strangest ways of living in the present is, funny enough, going to places where you gamble, like the horse races or the casinos where you play card games and roulette for money. So when you are there and you have started playing, I can assure you, you're living in the present. You have no you don't think at all about the past or the future. You just live in the present. And I think that's what attracts people to places like the casinos and horse racing and things like that. The fact, and of course, sport. That if they're very passionate about a certain kind of sport. So during that period that you are, say, watching a sport game between two groups that you very interested in, football and so on, you will be very much living in the present, and you will not have time to think about yesterday or what happened in the past or what's happening in the future. And so the whole point is that you try to live in the present. And as I say, one of the ways of living in the present, funnily enough, is to not to say that it's something that you'd have to know something about it.
Concentrate.
Yes, you'd have to know something about it, I suppose. But if you went, that's why I think the casinos are very popular, because when you go there, you are living in the absolute present, and you give no thought whatsoever to the past or the future.
You're also a pilot.
Pardon?
You're also a pilot.
Yes. In fact, as a pilot, you are always living, when you are flying, specifically, you are living in the present. There is no, I've been flying for 50 years. So, I have a multi-engine open rating for a multi-engine land aircraft. And when you fly as a pilot, you are most definitely living in the present. You have, in fact, that's why they more than likely have tests for pilots at airlines and so on, to see what might be so, that they might be so depressed that there's something that even flying doesn't help to keep them in the present. But generally speaking, once you have that plane under your control and you're in the air, and very often have passengers, you are most definitely living in the present. So for that entire period of flight, you are living in the present. The happiness can be felt for hours afterwards when you've returned, landed, and that's another good example of living in the present.
Yeah, skiing, line dancing.
Anything that brings you into living in the present will take away your depression, and will what was the other part? The breakup. Well, you will forget about breakup, and of course, the strange thing of, you talk about breakup. I mean, if you meet a new girl, a man or a new girl, and that person suddenly is attracted to you, you very, very, very quickly come into the present, and if you're lucky enough to have that happen, then it takes you only a short time to be fully in the present and quite can't remember what it was you were depressed about before. So the whole object is to live in the present. And if going to a casino helps you to live in the present, then go to a casino. And even if you lose money, which you probably will, you are living in the present.
Yes, I understand. But that's a very great recommendation, Errol.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, bye-bye.